So this is a tour of the Rans Tailwind conversion that I did through gocarlight.com. Thank you, Doug, for everything. I'm just going to kind of walk through the parts that have been installed here. I'm going to start at the front of the bike and work my way back. So the first thing we notice here is the speedometer. That's the little magnet on the spokes and the pickup coil, and then it's all zip tied and makes its way up the handlebars and heads back. I'm going to switch around to the other side because I did get the pedal assist option. It took a little work. You have to take the crank arm off with a special tool from Park, is the one that I used. And then this is the sensor. You can see it back here. This took a little bit of special working to open up the hole in the metal plate that's there. It didn't quite fit. And then some clear epoxy to hold it in place. And then this is just a friction fit on the crankshaft itself. And then we're going to go up to the handlebars because there's a lot of work up here. So in this install, I replaced the brakes. Each brake handle has a cable that comes out of it so that when the brake is squeezed, all power gets cut off to the drive system in the back. So there's one on this side, so that meant I had to basically strip the handlebars, and there's another one over here. In addition to that, all the normal gear shifts are back in place, but over here on the left, this is actually a throttle, a thumb throttle. So if you're not doing pedal assist, or even if you are, because it can override it, this is a speed controller. Working our way across, this is actually the control unit, and it's a pretty sophisticated one. There's a separate set of instructions for that, but basically it powers up here, and I'm going to turn on the battery so we can see it power up. So you basically just press this, and it will come up. And it's divided into a bunch of quadrants here. This is the pedal assist level, and you can change that just by clicking up the plus or the minus. If you click set, you can go through the various settings, and you hold a couple of them to pass through the rest of them. Here at the top is the battery level, 55.8 right now. I did get the higher voltage system. I defaulted to normal just for now. Speedometer, one of the things that I found out is that you have to go through and make sure that the diameter of the wheel is set. And mine is a 20-inch wheel, so that's kind of unusual, but not unusual for a recumbent. And then my bell, the other brake pedal, and standard shifter over here. And we're going to power that back off. It's got a backlight too, which is very nice. The other thing I did was I took all these wires, and there are a bunch of wires. And the Rans stuff is pretty good because it has the normal biking things through these guides. And I didn't like the mess of a bunch of wires, so I got this flex tubing. So they're all contained within the flex tubing, which makes its way down the handlebar, attached to the short post, which is where the front derailleur guide is located. And then this tricky part. This is actually where the controller is located, and there is a mess of wires for this, but they're all labeled. I labeled them all. They came all pre-connected, and I labeled them all and then disconnected them. Bought this box, and then if I swing down here below, you can actually see what I did was I took 2 bars of aluminum stock that I bent around and then just zip tied to the frame. Hopefully that's going to be sufficient over the long run. I'll pay attention to it. But that gives me a nice mounting platform. And the reason you kind of need that is because on a Tailwind, there's not a lot of space, but this chain runs right past. And as you shift, this guy will float in, which I discovered the first time I tried to mount it. So it actually was over here, and it was rubbing up against that box. I've drilled a bunch of holes in the box, but I think I'm going to drill a few more. There's holes in the bottom, too, just to get some decent airflow. Still have that to do. The other thing that I had to change, one of the big replacements, of course, was the rear wheel. And you can see the front wheel that I have is a very thin profile wheel. And the replacement wheel with the new hub motor and the gears is basically a BMX wheel. And it's quite a bit bigger, wider. And so the original center pull brakes that harness that came there, I had to replace that with this special one that I could adjust. Otherwise it was off to one side. So that was another change. I also had to change the brake shoes because the other brake shoes were designed for the aluminum hubs up the front, or whatever that material is up there. These are really nice and quiet. That's the drive wheel, and again, so this is where the power comes out. Everything fit really nicely. Just had to pull apart the back frame a little bit so that it would slide right in. It slid right in, tighten it up real nice. Then of course zip tied the cables so they don't get it a mess. This is the battery cable, the fuse, zip tied in, and it runs right up to this battery pack. And that was the other thing that was a little bit tricky. So this is the stock Rans luggage rack that goes in the back, and it just wasn't going to work at all. So again, some aluminum bar stock here allowed me to set the pan in. And if we go to unlock this, tight fit. So the battery comes out like that, and it's got these slide rails that slide into it. And this pan is what it slides into. So you can see I had to kind of bridge the mounting of that. Okay, just a little addendum to that first one. But one of the things that was that I found out later was that the battery pack itself, it has this nice handle. It also had what looked like a light, so I had to write to Doug again, and basically it comes with its own light. You just hold that button down and you can turn it on and off once the thing is on, which is nice. It's nice to have. The other thing was that you really need a kickstand. And this is a Greenfield kickstand, which fit just fine. It does a really nice frame fit for the bike, and that really sets it up safely. Happy riding.